Hello and welcome to the Suzanne Atwell Show. I'm Suzanne Atwell. In this episode, The Changing Face of Downtown Sarasota, we'll hear from leading commercial and residential real estate experts, take you on a behind-the-scenes walking tour with a world-renowned author and urban planner, and talk to a family that is making the move downtown. But first, let's start with a quick overview. No part of the city has seen more changes than the Rosemary District. Once a quiet, middle-class community of early 20th century cottages and bungalows, now a bustling arts and hotel district that is attracting younger professionals as well as upscale boomers seeking a walkable urban lifestyle. A tsunami of building permits and commercial investments were unleashed by a City Commission zoning decision in 2014, known as the Rosemary Residential Overlay District. The ruling allowed up to 75 housing units per acre, an investment tipping point that created over 1,500 new housing units in 3 years. Today, that number continues to grow. Cityside Apartments, Valencia, Rosemary Square, where the opera and symphony house artists, Elan Rosemary Apartments, the Courtyard at Citrus. The list goes on, and that's just the area north of Fruitville, east of the trail, and south of 10th. Moving to the core downtown area, the rate of construction is even more dramatic and more expensive as well. Sarasota has emerged as one of, if not the top luxury condo destinations in the world. Starting with the view, we are seeing a boom in multi-million-dollar Uber high-end units that are selling like hotcakes. Many pre-sold before they even break ground. And who are these high-end buyers? The majority are locals moving from expensive waterfront properties on the barrier islands in Sarasota and Manatee counties. West of US 41, two of the most valuable waterfront properties in the state of Florida are being developed. Together, they will define the future of public access to Sarasota Bay. I'm talking about the Quay and the Bay. The Quay is a 15-acre plot north of the Ritz-Carlton, south of the Hyatt Regency, between US 41 and Sarasota Bay. The City of Sarasota reached a development agreement in 2016 with Jacksonville-based developer Greenpoint Holdings to create a billion-dollar waterfront district and a marina. Construction crews are doing prep work on the site right now. The project is divided into 9 blocks. The first phase is an 18-story condo tower located in Block 6, called the Grand. This phase also includes a parking garage and a restaurant. Completion for this phase is slated for 2020, about the same time as the roundabout, which is under construction at that intersection of US 41 and Fruitville Road. One of the core principles driving the Quay is called public connectivity. The idea is to make sure privately owned properties don't block public access to the waterfront while providing walking paths and pedestrian bridges that will allow folks to get from one end of the Quay to the other. The principle of open public access also applies to the other mega waterfront project known as the Bay Sarasota. Just north of the Quay, this is the track that goes from the Hyatt to the 10th Street boat ramp. It includes the Old Gee Whiz building and the Van Wezel Performing Arts Center. In 2017, the Sarasota Bay Planning Commission selected world-renowned design and planning firm Sasaki to create a comprehensive master plan for the 42-acre city-owned bayfront now in the initial phases. The project will take years to complete. If you happen to be driving on the trail around 10th Street, you will see major construction for the roundabout that is going there. Another core principle guiding all this downtown development is walkability. To provide expert advice, the city has been working with a nationally recognized expert who recently toured downtown, and we were there. And then you get the, and look what happens to it. It gives no meaning to gentrification. This is Jeff Speck, author, consultant, and lover of all things walkable. We followed along as he and city officials looked at the new face of Sarasota. How exciting!
It's like, is it better to have a wider sidewalk with a small canopy tree or a smaller sidewalk with a bigger canopy tree?
Smaller. Yeah. Ocean Drive in Miami Beach has 4 foot clear.
Oh.
And it's where everyone wants to be. And there's a crowd on the 4 foot clear side of the street. There's almost no one on the Lummis Park side of the street where there's plenty of room. People like people. As long as you don't have physical, traffic jams of humans bumping into humans, then a tight sidewalk is great. And there's ADA needs, and I'm for a 6 foot clear, but I think an 8 foot clear is actually too much.
Sidewalks, their location, their width, whether tree lined, and if so, what trees are best. All of these were on topic. New apartment buildings and condos that have recently opened were reviewed in terms of pedestrian convenience, and we got high marks almost across the board. Another concern, crosswalks.
All right, we're at 1:34 seconds.
Oh, okay. I know.
We're not going to make.
Did you press it once?
We're going to go back the other way. It was 2.5 minutes the other day.
All right.
There we go. Here we go. Got it?
Room for improvement here, as anyone who has tried to cross US 41 knows. Walking through the canyons of new luxury condos, going up downtown, it is evident the message from prospective buyers is being heard.
The development in downtown Sarasota is just become so attractive because I can walk to Whole Foods, which is a place that I go there practically every day, and also the Opera House is right there, and all sorts of interesting things happening in downtown Sarasota, so which I find is very attractive.
The skyline is dotted with cranes as developers rush to meet market demand. Pre-sales of multi-million-dollar units are typical. Views of the bay, world-class arts and entertainment, restaurants everywhere, and yes, all within walking distance. After the tour of the city, we sat down with Jeff Speck for his take on the changing face of Sarasota.
Well, I compare it to 6 years ago, where there's been a tremendous amount of evolution, but I really compare it to, what would it be, 18 years ago, when I was here with, really 19 years ago, I was here with DPZ, Dwani Plater-Zyberk, working on the downtown plan. And it's very satisfying as a planner. You know, most of the plans we do are 20-year plans. We're looking forward 20 years. And that was one of them. And it's astounding to see, even with a recession in the middle, right, how much change has happened in that time. My particular responsibility on the team during that plan was the Rosemary District, which it's night and day between then and now. And I have to say, I mentioned this on the tour, like, we were creating hopeful plans and images of what could happen there. We didn't have a lot of hope. I mean, you always have aspirational planning, but you don't necessarily expect it to happen. And granted, 18 years is a long time, but in planning time, it's a blink of the eye. And so much more than we had imagined could happen has happened in that neighborhood.
So,
but I don't want to just limit my observations to that.
Right.
The whole downtown is transformed.
So, given that, what do you think about walkability now?
So this is, my talk was going to be called. My talks are always called Towards a More Walkable when is the city. But I had to change that. My talk is now called Gilding the Lily because you've come so far already.
Right.
I think
love
that
it.
the concerns now have to be more about making sure that it stays authentic and stays available for everyone and doesn't get too upscale. I'm incredibly encouraged that so few of the stores on your main street are chains. And the risk that you face when you improve in the way you've improved is that the chains come in, the real estate, the rents get too high and you lose your local character, but that really hasn't happened and doesn't seem to be happening. So that's very encouraging. To answer your question more directly, it's clearly a very walkable downtown, and what's tremendously encouraging is the connections you have to surrounding neighborhoods that are all within a convenient walking distance, which still have a lot of development potential left in them. So particularly the Rosemary District, but others in other directions can achieve a lot greater density, and that will all feed to the vitality of the center of your
Exactly.
downtown.
A lot of people think, are we built out? But if we're not, we have a lot more space,
Yeah.
and the more we build, the more it will become walkable.
Yes. I mean, density is central to walkability.
Absolutely. Also, talk about what other cities that are comparable in size and dynamic have you seen that are walkable? They're working out their walkability factors.
The cities I really know are the ones that I've worked in, which aren't necessarily comparable. But you see a lot of surprising places like Oklahoma City, where I did a plan about 10 years ago, that has changed from a place where, according to my taxi driver, there were no stores downtown to a place where people go to shop and hang out and spend time. I think what we're seeing in cities is that shopping has become a much more experiential thing. Like people don't go to a place to shop. If they just want to shop, they'll go to Walmart or they'll go to Amazon, right? Which is why it's so important to focus on the quality of our places, because this sort of shopping is about the experience of being there, not about necessarily what you're spending your money on.
Absolutely.
But I mean, what's happened in Sarasota is happening to a more or less degree in many American cities. If there's any sort of economic energy, the more recent trends have been towards better urban design and more walkable outcomes. But honestly, I think West Palm Beach is a good comparison. What sets many Florida downtowns apart from the rest of the country is that for many years there's been a lot of housing already in the downtown centers.
Right.
And that's because people want to live in Florida. And the principal product, the manufacturing base in Florida, the manufacturing economy is housing, right? That's your product. And so compared to the rest of the country, Florida cities have a leg up when it comes to reinvigorating their downtowns, as I know from West Palm Beach, because there's already a lot of apartments and condos in the downtown area. But anything you can add to that, which you're doing, does make it strong.
After our interview with Jeff, he went to City Hall to provide commissioners with his assessment of the city's walkability. And to better understand the commercial real estate and investment environment that has fueled the boom, we turn to John Harshman. For over 40 years, John has been in Sarasota, and he has literally seen it all.
When I first came here, it was a beautiful little idyllic community, but there were some pluses and minuses. There was no pizza around. We used to have to go to Mario's Pizza in downtown Bradenton to get pizza. You could go to the beach on the weekend and park. The bay was not nearly as clean as it is today. It was a very small town that closed up at night. There were very few shopping opportunities and very few entertainment opportunities. But it was a beautiful little fishing village.
So what did you notice that were the seminal moments that happened here? How did this city progress from those years up till now?
When I got into commercial real estate, interest rates were very, very high, massive appreciation, exodus from downtown. The suburban areas were starting to get a little more traction. Beneva Road was being pushed through, Proctor Road, some of these other roads were being pushed through, but downtown was really being left behind. And then in '89, when they changed the tax law, or the '86 tax law changed, and finally came into effect in '89, we had this massive vacation of office buildings, and vacancy rates skyrocketed to over 30%. Many of the buildings were lost to the bank. In fact, 13 of the 16 major projects downtown all went back to the bank. The only 3 that didn't, Northern Trust owned their building at that time, SunTrust owned their building at that time, and Ron Spector's Red Brick buildings. Those were the only 3 of the major buildings that did. So that kind of set the basis for the future. And once we kind of worked ourselves out of that recession, and it took until 94, 95. And once we started working out of that recession, there was a little more life to it. The city really did some really good things back then, in that Main Street used to be one way from Orange Avenue going west, and it terminated at Gulfstream, and Ringling Boulevard did not go through to 41. So they did a number of things. One, they acquired all the property around that is now Five Points Park, turned that into Five Points Park. That was a great thing for downtown. They opened up Main Street and Ringling Boulevard to 41 at different times, but in that same era.
Right.
And then they changed Main Street to 2 ways from Orange Avenue West, which made a lot more sense. And that did 2 things. One, it made it a much more pleasant community to go down, but it also told the community and the business community that the city was behind downtown. So that was really a seminal moment, I think, for downtown. The other kind of interesting anecdote that I tell about that is the Granary was downtown. It was a 4,500 square foot grocery store, great grocery store. We used to all go to it, all just standard grocery items, but it was based on healthy items. And they did great during the 80s and the early 90s, when people could come downtown and park on Main Street and walk in, get their groceries and leave. Well, as soon as downtown started revitalizing and more people started coming down, we kind of started transiting into more of an entertainment district, and we had more entertainment venues. Those parking spaces were taken over.
Let's fast forward to 2014, another seminal moment when the Rosemary District changed the overlay district.
That, in my mind, is probably the quintessential economic development effort that any government that I have ever seen has undertaken. It cost the city nothing. All they had to do was sign the ordinance, review it, of course, but sign the ordinance, and then and give the market the opportunity to accept this. The 75 units an acre did a couple things. One, it proved to us that we could put 75 units an acre in 4 stories, 4 and 5 stories, and that was huge, because before people thought you had to go 10, 15 stories to get that kind of density, but no, on the right sites with the right geometry, you can put 75 units an acre in 4 stories.
So what's the end game here? What's the end point? How much is left? How much can we sustain this development?
There certainly is a lot of supply that's out there. I am not hearing that we're having a difficult time filling that supply. Baby boomers are retiring with their money and their parents' money. The demographics are shifting. There's a lot more people visiting Sarasota from all over.
Finally, from a commercial real estate perspective, how much commercial development do we need to provide the space for services for all the people that are here?
Well, almost all the development that you've seen downtown has been residential. And now there have been some hotels, and some of those residential units will have some commercial on the ground floor, kind of the mixed-use style, and that makes a lot of sense. You won't see any main plazas constructed downtown. You'll see some little pieces in here. We probably won't see a speculative office building built downtown. The numbers just don't make sense. Residential is really what's driving it, and residential needs some commercial space, but it doesn't need massive amounts.
No question, things are better than ever from John's perspective. A perspective shared on the residential side by top luxury condo agent Amy Drake.
The market is incredibly vibrant. I was here at the last uptick of the market when the last round of condominiums were all developed, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like I'm seeing today. The demand is extraordinary. We are attracting people from, I would say, all over the world, but it's really mostly all over the country.
But there are a lot of beautiful, you just mentioned, people are coming here from California. There are a lot of beautiful cities in the world with the same amenities. Why here?
They're attracted to all of the offerings, not only the culture, but the outdoor cafes. In any given day, I can come right out my door. I can get a manicure, a pedicure. I can take a yoga class. I can go to an opera if I want to, or a matinee. I can have a beautiful lunch. I can get a fresh coffee. I mean, everything is here. And I think because we've increased the density in downtown, we're now getting the critical mass that we need to support the commercial endeavors. You've got to have the people here to support the commercial enterprises. And really, at the end of the day, for those of us who have been here a long time, I think we find it kind of refreshing. Our downtown is vibrant.
Well, that's a great point, because you want to transition so that you're not going from being maybe a CEO of a company and very active, or a college president or something like that, and you come here and then you play golf all day. People are not satisfied, it seems, with that anymore.
Well, and you know, real estate and luxury real estate goes well beyond bricks and sticks.
Exactly.
It's really about creating a sense of community, and I think that's the thing that people are so attracted to here. You're right; they're not sad. You know, some people would play golf all day, but generally, they might play golf in the morning, but then they might want to be on a board in the afternoon, go to the theater in the evening. So, it is this community. There are a lot of opportunities to give back. And
Yes.
the people that I see in the luxury market are charitable, they're educated, they're well-traveled, and they want to have a meaningful life. And they know they can do that here.
Is there a big influx of people coming here from Longboat Key, from Bird Key, from a little bit out there, that are really, okay, I've loved Longboat, don't want to go across the bridge, want to go downtown, that are moving here?
Probably over the last 5 years, maybe over 50% of my customers have come from the Barrier Islands.
50%?
In these luxury towers downtown, I had the pleasure of selling 624 Palm and now selling Epic. At 624 Palm, I think it was 70% of the people coming either from Longboat Key, from Siesta Key, Casey Key. So, you know, of course, everybody adores our beaches, and they may start there.
Yeah.
But once you've been there for a long time, now the pull of what's going on downtown, beside the traffic, it's just more about the day-to-day lifestyle, because most of what they do is right here in the center of downtown. So yes, that is a distinct trend that we're seeing, and we don't really see that changing. There will always be people moving to the beaches, so it isn't one or the other. But this downtown trend is it's electric.
So, and finally, are there any concerns you may have about units on the market? What's going on? What are some of the issues that you see coming?
This is all about supply and demand.
Sure.
And the demand for not only Sarasota, but Florida continues to increase. So realistically, we're actually undersupplied here. And that's why we are seeing what is being built is being sold. And of course, we're across all price points in downtown Sarasota.
Right.
So especially in Rosemary, you can get things, you know, at a easier starting price point. And then as you go to waterfront, you know, direct waterfront is always a premium and always the most desirable. As we have at Epic is, I think, why we have been so well received. But there is a market at all price points and all sizes.
Amy tells us sales for the Uber luxury units in the Epic are going fast. It really is amazing to see how many high-end buyers flocking to Sarasota. And I was surprised to learn that the majority of buyers are not out-of-towners. They are locals moving from the Barrier Islands to downtown. We recently caught up with one of them.
Sarasota has changed a lot in the time that we've been here. It has grown. When we first came here, the Sarasota airport was basically a small shoebox. Now it's, you know, as you see how it's grown so tremendously. Well, downtown didn't have as many big buildings as it does now. You could shoot a cannon down Main Street and not hit anybody when we first came here.
Exactly.
The amount of growth and change has truly been phenomenal. This has grown from really a town into a city. This is a small city. So yeah, so it's getting bigger, and what it strikes me as is the city and its elders have to decide what kind of city this is going to be. And there are several ways it can go. There are the arts, which this has always been kind of an arts center, But we have an opera house here, we have a symphony center here, we have the Van Wezel, there's all sorts of performing arts here that doesn't exist in a lot of other places. This is very unique in Florida. But this is got to decide what kind of community it's going to be. What is the artistic life going to be here? What is the intellectual life going to be here? Because that's going to determine what kind of people come here.
Exactly. And what are some of the concerns you have with this in the past, just even in the past 5 years? We have grown exponentially downtown on so many levels, with the restaurants, with the condos, with arts. What are some of your concerns that you see now that you will be full-time down there?
Traffic is an issue. Route 41, for example, bisects Sarasota in a way that, from our perspective, makes it harder for people who are on the ocean side, on the west side of 41, to really have easy access to downtown. While it's easy to drive, if you're a pedestrian, getting across 41, it can be a bit of a challenge. I am hopeful that at some point in the future there will be perhaps a pedestrian overpass, so that you don't have to fight the traffic to get across 41.
If you would like to read more about today's topics, here are some links. To learn more about the Rosemary District, go to blvdsarasota.com. And for a comprehensive look at plans for the Bay, go to thebaysarasota.org. And of course, you can always watch this show and all our past episodes on our website, YouTube, and the Facebook page, facebook.com/Suzanne Atwell Show. We'd love to hear from you and read your comments, so let us know what you think. And as always, thanks for watching. We hope you learned something, and until next time, we'll see you around town.